Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Face the State from the state capitol. I'm Dennis House. We're here because Governor Ned Lamont was sworn in as Connecticut's 89th governor. And with us today to talk about what he hopes to accomplish are our two political pundits. They are David Stemerman. He is the former Republican candidate for governor, Republican. Democrat, Joe Ganim, Mayor of Bridgeport. We thank you, gentlemen, for being with us here today.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
So I know somewhere in the back of your brain you were kind of hoping it was you up there today, but it's not, right? I mean, you must have been thinking about what would I have done differently. But first, let's talk about what you thought of Governor Lamont's State of the State address.
Sure. I will tell you, though, from one who can be pretty critical, meaning me, of looking at how people kind of move forward today, I think Ned, frankly, did an outstanding job. I think he knocked it out of the park with the way he connected it in his speech, talked about optimism, kind of turning the page in a positive way, but saying, hey, look, we got problems we're going to deal with the budget. We're going to deal with them. But at the same time, laid out a vision, which I think we all want to kind of feel, a vision for Connecticut, for our future. And I thought that was, to me, it was exciting.
Mr. Stemerman, what was your take on his State of the State?
I think that he hit the right tones of saying that we have a great future if we do the right thing. And the applause lines that I thought were most noteworthy was talking about fixing the budget. That got a rousing applause. And also when he pitched a 30-30-30 plan for getting the train from New York City to Sanford in 30 minutes, New Haven, and then here to Hartford. The real devil will be in the details. So this is sort of the opening act, and what will be critical is how's he actually going to make that promise into a reality.
That was one of the cornerstones of your campaign. You had talked about shortening those rail times from between cities. Can it be done?
It absolutely can be done. And there's been a report put out by an independent group providing that advice. And I was very pleased to see when Governor Lamont named Joe Giletti, who was a part of that group and who's a former president of the MTA, to be his new transportation commissioner. I think this is vital for the economic growth of our state, and getting the right people in the right seats is important. I'm excited about that appointment.
How would better transportation help the city of Bridgeport?
Huge. And not just for the city of Bridgeport, but for all the cities and towns in Connecticut. I mean, to understand if kind of the way he visualized the bookends is, he didn't say it, but Boston and New York, and we're in the middle. To be able to connect our cities to 30-30-30 is a great goal, and I think a lot of will, transportation. He also did talk right up front about cities themselves, about the importance of cities and making sure we have vibrant cities. Why? Not just because they're the centers of culture, but that's where young people are going to be attracted to want to have their future. It's cities. That's where millennials are looking for. So that was an important part of it.
I can only imagine for Bridgeport, with a 30-30-30 plan, you get Bridgeport in 45 minutes. It would be a game changer for that city and all of our major cities.
Absolutely. So setting the table the right way, without sounding packaged a lot in a speech, hit the right notes.
We will likely hear more about this in his budget address coming up in 6 weeks, and that is tolls. He wants to bring in tolls for trucks only. Yet some liberal Democrats in your party, they want tolls for everybody. What do you think about that?
Well, however we address a transportation problem, it's got to be fixed. We can't have a bankrupt transportation fund. Tolls have been on the table. They tell me that, you know, at the end of the day, people will support it. How you do it, how you slice it and dice it is really going to be up to the governor's leadership. But we can't have a broke transportation fund if we're going to fix our highways, if we're going to have a 30-30-30 transit system, and really begin to make this a more vibrant state that we want it to be.
Republicans don't want tolls. Themis Klarides, the minority leader, said earlier this week that why don't we cut back on the busway and put some of that money instead of instituting tolls. What do you think about that?
I think that what people don't want is to pay more money for the same lousy commute that they've had all along. And so some of the ideas we've talked about as Republicans is bring in private-public partnerships to help us build roads. So if they're going to be tolls or some increase in revenue, that it goes to actually increasing the size of our roads, improving the quality of service, rather than just another tax, another toll, just to get the same lousy commuting experience.
You both are from different parties, obviously, but from different backgrounds as well. You're a business guy, you're an elected official and mayor, so this Family Medical Leave Act and a higher minimum wage is going to have different effects on different people. You support those moves?
Yeah, I think when you get down to it, when you look at them in a vacuum, you see kind of people saying, "Wait a minute, what is that about?" When you realize how it enhances the fiber of not only the workplace but families and commitment, and the ability for people to earn a decent wage, and helps people with I don't want to say it's not a handout, but a helping hand up. Especially if your minimum wage standards are trying to raise a family, it makes a difference. So yes, I do.
There are some business leaders who don't believe that a higher minimum wage is good for the economy. Do you agree with that?
I heard that repeatedly all over the state in businesses like restaurants, grocery stores, that a higher minimum wage, paid family leave is going to mean fewer jobs. And so this is the challenge we have. Our state already is a high-cost place to living, high-cost place of doing business. We need to be very thoughtful, very careful before we add new costs to hire people and businesses. That doesn't mean we wind up with fewer jobs and fewer opportunities.
He wants the first digital state government, he says.
I like it. We've gone online. The state comptroller, Kevin Lembo, has Open Connecticut, which is open the books. At least as you can go on your computer and look at how state spends money. We did that in Bridgeport, one of the first cities, I think, in the country to do it. So that at least is the beginnings. We're talking about getting into a Wi-Fi availability in centers and just really going high tech. Talks to the next generation. And if we're going to think about the future, as I think the governor well stated in his address, you got to talk to the next generation.
You've had the governor's ear. You've spoken to him and you've suggested some ideas in a column and also in person. Did he take any of them?
I've been very pleased that he's been open and receptive as he's talked about to big, bold ideas. And the area that we're really going to need to see leadership from is in the budget, and particularly our massive unfunded retirement liabilities. I was pleased to see in his speech that he talked about our liabilities going up and up, and he talked about we need to fix the budget honestly. The only way to do that is to have a very different approach. I've talked with him about what that approach might be. I look forward to seeing what it is he's going to do, because if we don't fix that problem, it's going to be just like the last 8 years where Dan Malloy wanted to have a balanced budget, but in the end we were stuck in the same place we've been.
Speaking of Dan Malloy, there were some Democrats who say that he didn't really play the game at the legislature, didn't schmooze, he didn't make deep personal friendships with some of the lawmakers like governors have to do. Do you think Ned Lamont will be different, and why?
He's got a good personality. You saw him up there today. I mean, he rolls with it pretty well. He's a personable guy, and I think, frankly, through this process, we both were in it for a certain period of time. I think he's become more personable. I was with him on Christmas Eve, and we went to in Bridgeport, the Merton House, a soup kitchen, and when you can see in the face of engagement with people. Sometimes you notice when someone's really touched. You seem to be moved and understanding the challenges that people have, and that's going to be important for this next 4 years. How he sets priorities, how he addresses where limited resources in a tough budget are going to get allocated. So I'm optimistic.
You were looking around the chamber there, and you clapped for some of the governor's things, but some of your fellow Republicans did not. What do you think they feel about him?
I think they're watching and waiting, and they have seen part of what I did in looking forward to today was to look back. And 8 years ago, we had Dan Malloy talking a very good game. He talked about growing the economy, making hard choices, having a balanced budget. But here we are 8 years later, and while he made some moves in the right direction, we didn't make the tough choices we needed to then. I think there's some justifiable skepticism to see what is this next governor actually going to do. And we'll see for the next budget, sort of the next round in 5 weeks, what are the details.
Yeah, no, just to complement that, the people of Connecticut, and I will tell you as mayors of cities and towns, we want stability. We want a budget that's going to be balanced, not something we have to go back to for the next 3 or 4 years. And then from there, deliver the services the people of Connecticut want.
Well, we love having our pundit team back on Face the State. Happy belated New Year to both of you guys. Joe Ganim, David Stemerman, we'll have you on again. Thanks for being with us here today. When we come back, we'll be joined by Themis Claridis and Matt Ritter to talk about the legislative interpretation of what Governor Lamont had to say today. And we welcome you to watch past editions of Face the State on our YouTube channel and on the WFSB app. We'll be right back.